Fear keeps us alive. It keeps us surviving. But the problem is when you have ongoing fear. A lot of people have ongoing anxiety, and they're not even aware of it. And then they form all kinds of addictive behavior, which they, again, don't realize it's addiction, whether it's alcohol or smoking or even shopping therapy. Is that you? This retail therapy? Eating, overeating, sugar addiction, video game addiction, sex addiction, relationship where you're attached to somebody and you're not free. So there's many ways that we try to appease ourselves, try to comfort ourselves, but in doing so we do bad to ourselves too, right? So I have devised a method, a 3-step method for people to overcome fear and anxiety. And this method is based on the Socratic method. In a way, help people discover Greek philosophy and the therapeutic result of Greek philosophy, but without having to read, all of Plato, all of Aristotle, all of Socrates. You don't have to do that. You can just get the essence through this 3-step method, and then it opens the appetite for them to learn more. History about Socrates. Maybe you've heard that he's the greatest Greek philosopher, the father of Western philosophy. He was a man who basically roamed the streets, the agora as we call it, the marketplace. Now if you go to the site of Theseo, you will see the agora, the stoa of Attalos, and a beautiful place. It was a very beautiful place. So he would roam around and go up to people and speak to them and say, are you happy in your life, right? What makes you happy? He developed a system. It's called meftiki. Meftiki comes from the midwife, the one who helps pull the baby out of the mother. Meftics. They still use this term in psychology. So by cross-examining these people, by asking them specific questions, he could get you to reassess your thinking. Okay? So it's like a lawyer cross-examines you. Like, are you sure? Show proof. It's all about getting to the objective truth. Because according to Socrates, we lie to ourselves a lot. We tell ourselves lies about who we are, what we want, what we're afraid of. There's ongoing deception, self-deception. And this self-deception leads us to misery, leads us to anger, leads us to resentment, leads us to jealousy, leads us to envy, leads us to anxiety. So let me tell you the little story about Socrates. It's an anecdotal story. Socrates was walking in the marketplace one day in the agora, and someone runs up to him and says, Daskalos, master, I want to tell you something about one of your students. And Socrates says, just a moment, before I hear what you have to say about my students, before I hear what you have to say about one of my students, I want to ask you 3 questions. The guy goes, okay, 3 questions. First, is what you are about to tell me true? Are you sure it's 100% true? The guy's like, well, not 100%. I heard it from someone who heard it from someone else, so I don't really have proof. Okay, second question. Is what you're going to tell me kind? Echi kalosini. In Greek, it's kalosini. Is there something kind in there? The guy says, no, not really. It's kind of malicious. It's juicy gossip, Okay, Socrates says, third question. Is it useful for me to know this? Is it useful to me? Do I have to know this? Why do I have to know this? You know what I mean? The guy's like, no, not really. It's of no real use to you. So Socrates says, okay, well, I'm sorry then. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I won't take. What I wanted to do today is do an actual exercise with you where we can filter one of your false beliefs, one of the ways that you're making yourself miserable. So it's a workshop. So let's open our folders. Are we all game to do this? First of all, how do you feel right here and now? On a scale from below 10 to plus 10. Every so often, do this check throughout the day. Έβαλε στο κύκλο. How are you feeling right now? On a scale from below 10, right here, below 10, 0, and plus 10. 1 or 2 sentences, write down your biggest complaint lately. Your biggest complaint. I don't know. I hate the weather. I don't have enough money. My husband doesn't listen to me. I hate the government. I don't know. Whatever. What is your biggest... Ποιο είναι το μεγαλύτερο παράπονο σου?
In English.
You can do it in Greek. Ποιο είναι το μεγαλύτερο παράπονο σου τελευταία? Be honest with yourself. Be brutally honest. What do you really hate about your situation right now? I'm guessing yours. Oh boy. In 1 or 2 sentences. I really hate. I can't stand. I feel a victim of, I don't know, my tax guys. I don't know. Whatever. I see people writing paragraphs. You know, once you start,
Big letters.
you can't stop.
Let it out.
Let it out, but try to do it in 1 or 2 sentences. B. Now, on a deep down inside, I'm afraid that. Deep down inside, behind my complaint, my actual fear is. So, for example, you might say, these people have been delaying in giving me the papers and information I want for the coaching webinar that I'm trying to organize. My deeper fear is they're not going to come up with the papers on time. They will not come through, and I will be left hanging. Okay? Nothing's going to happen. So sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night. Does that ever happen to you? You wake up in the middle of the... or you cannot sleep. You cannot sleep. You're tossing and turning, and there's this one thought that's going. That is the worst consequence. That is the bad consequence. It's C and D. That's what's keeping you up at night. You have some of those? How many of you have difficulty sometimes you're tossing and turning in bed? Tossing and turning in bed. And a thought is keeping you up at night. What is that thought? Okay. Now we come to E, which is fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks. It's very easy. As you see, I made it easy. On a deeper level, it implies that, and it has to be something about you, not something about them. On a deeper level, it implies that, and I put as an example, I am not worthy, because psychologists have found that behind many of the fears that people have is this feeling, I am not worthy. Now, as you're talking about this, F, how do you feel when you believe, how does it make you feel when you believe that that story that you've just written down is true? On a scale from below 10 to plus 10. Πώς σε κάνει να νιώθεις όταν πιστεύεις αυτή τη σκέψη, αυτή την ιστορία, αυτό το διήγημα? Because remember that we are telling ourselves some stories. These are stories you're telling yourself, narrative. It's not what is actually happening. It is your interpretation of what is happening.
And what the consequences.
And the consequence, these are your interpretations. Just write, how does it make you feel? Don't analyze it. Does it make you feel plus 10, 0, minus 10? How does it make you feel? Just circle. So when you believe that story, you feel below 0, most of you, or near 0. Let's turn now to do the Socratic filtering system that I mentioned earlier. You were not there, but you've been to my other seminars, so maybe you remember. Even if you don't remember the story with Socrates, we're going to do it in practice. Let's start with, is it true? Is that narrative that you've been telling yourself 100% true, without a doubt? Αυτή η ιστορία, αυτό το διήγημα που έχεις πει στον εαυτό σου, δεν είμαι άξια, αυτό θα μ' αφήσει μόνο, δεν ήμουν καλή αδελφή, δεν αυτό. Is it 100% true? And to help you understand whether your thing is 100% true, your narrative, interrogate, become an interrogator. Okay, γίνε σαν δικηγόρος και κάνε του ερωτήσεις. Am I perhaps dramatizing the situation and overblowing its importance? Am I generalizing? Okay, am I generalizing and assuming things that are not 100% true? Or am I perhaps over-personalizing? Το έχω πάρει πολύ προσωπικά όλο. Like he said, είπε μια βλακεία ο άλλος, he said something and I took it, oh, you know, me. They have shit on them, they throw shit onto you, you let that shit stick. Instead of being like a marble statue, it just glides off. The shit remains off of you. You are deceiving yourself, and ultimately you're sabotaging your energy. And it's just good to come to that realization. I'm not telling you things you don't already know. I'm just reminding you of things you know already. This is what Plato taught. Plato believes we already know everything, even from previous lives, Plato believes. But because here we don't do psychoanalysis, you know. Everybody has traumas from their childhood. You want to do 10 years of psychoanalysis? Go ahead, do 10 years of psychoanalysis. My system will clear your energy here and now, okay? Be my guest, pay a fortune to psychoanalysis. So how does it make you feel now? So how does it make you feel? Have you moved up from minus to plus? What number are you now?
15.
15. So plus 15, so you're even, it makes you feel much better knowing.
Yes, of course.
You see? Being honest with ourselves. That's why the Christians say, and it's not only Christian, it's from Socratic times, the truth shall set you free. When you're really honest with yourself, it's very liberating. You're resisting your liberation.
You think so?
Oh, I know
Okay.
so. Try to help yourself. Help yourself. Be honest with yourself. Yeah. So, number 2, is that story, this is for you, Marina, is that story you tell yourself kind towards yourself? In other words, when you keep telling yourself that narrative, is that kind towards yourself? No. Just put yes or no. No. All right? I mean, imagine someone else was talking to you like this all the time. Imagine you had a roommate, which you have a roommate in your brain, and they've been telling you that, you know, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. You would say, get the hell out of my room, get the hell out of my house. You know, you're just depressing. But the fact is, you have this roommate in this rental space, your brain. You're living with this dude or dudess. Just take note of that. That you are not being kind to yourself. Kindness, kalosini. Okay, the Greek word. Another thing about kindness is it kind towards the others who are involved? There may be some other people you're blaming, like you're blaming the clients or your friends or whoever. You're blaming your boyfriend. You're blaming, I don't know who. Is it kind to that specific person? And before you answer that, I want you to look at this diagram. Do you see an old lady or a young lady in this diagram?
Young lady.
Okay. How many people see the old lady with the big nose?
I was looking for it for a couple of hours.
The big nose. I'll give you a hint. The old lady is looking in front. looking down with the big chin and the big nose. And the young lady is looking back to the horizon. So,
Does that mean anything?
this is very meaningful because this is about looking at things through the perspective of other people. Or just changing your perspective. You see, in life, we often see either the old lady or the young lady. We see life, this is my perspective, and that's all I see. We don't realize there's a whole different perspective. At least be able to see the other perspective, see both perspectives. Some people even see dolphins in here. I'm just saying there's many ways to see your reality. And maybe you are being unjust by your perspective of that, your brother, or maybe you're being unjust in your perspective of your friend, or towards your husband. If there is another person involved in your problem, the other people you're working with, or your perspective of life in general. Okay, maybe you have to shift your perspective, and it's an instant away. You just go cluck, and you see the old lady. You go cluck, and you see the young lady. So I want you to be more flexible and say, I have to get unstuck from my perspective to free myself from this misery. Shifting your perspective. You know, it was Epictetus. Epictetus was a Greek slave who later went on to found a great school of Stoicism in Nicopolis. I have visited in Nicopolis. Epictetus, as his name says in Greek, Epiktitos, it means he is property. He used to be a slave. You know, the Romans took over Greece. He became a slave. He was taken to Rome. And this guy who was a slave was able to slowly liberate himself from being a slave, came to Greece with no property, no money, nothing, and began teaching because he was reading Socrates, he was reading many things, and he opened one of the greatest schools of Greek philosophy, Stoicism, in Nicopolis. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, says that it's not what happens to us that brings us misery, but our perspective of it. So if you want to move from fear to freedom, snap out of it. Snap out of whatever shit you are stuck in. That shit is self-created narrative. Let's move to the last question. Is this story a narrative, Marina? It's for you. Is it useful to you to continue telling yourself that narrative? Absolutely. I want to clap to that. I don't think you heard it. That's why I clapped. I'm saying it again. If you change your vibe, just change your own vibe. Put on your happy song, your frequency, literally, because you're emitting a frequency. Your mood. If you switch your own mood, dude, your whole vibe changes your reality. And their stuff doesn't stick on you. And what you can do, what I do with difficult people, you know what I do, is I bless them.
Yes, you send them love.
I bless them. So what I don't know what you're going to do, you know, I don't know what you're going to do. That's up to each one of you, how you're going to raise your vibration. One way is switching your perspective. Another way is physically changing your mood. Go take a cold shower, go dance, put some music on, whatever. I get energy when I bless people because I feel that the energy is going through me. It's not mine, it's universal energy. Even if you don't believe in God, it's just energy, okay? You send them positive energy, and that liberates you, you know.
I do that. But
It takes practice, Marina. It's not, and I'm not saying I'm the expert, you know. I get
but
challenged.
there's some things in life that you have to accept that are just painful, no matter how you change your perspective.
honey, there are painful things, but how long you drag on that pain is a different question. Okay? If you get hit by a car, you get hit. Okay? She got her knee. That hurt, literally. Okay? From there on, how much she wants to be feeling like a victim and suffer is a different thing. There's pain and there's suffering. Pain is natural. Instant fear is natural. But holding on to it with the story, the lie you are telling yourself, that's what makes you suffer. It brings down your energy, and then more shit sticks on you. Blessings. Blessings.
That might be the antidote.
It might be. That sounds like a good... And you know what? I always say, try it out and see what it does. Try it out for a month, 30 days in a row, and see what it does to you, see what it does to the other people. And if it doesn't work, try something else. Or come back to it. You know, write down your strategies, which is the last part of this exercise. Imagine for one moment, who could you be if you didn't have that thought? Ποιος θα ήσουνα εάν δεν είχες αυτό το διήγημα? Who could you be? Who could you be like? Who could you be? What would you talk like? What would you act like? Imagine for a moment if you didn't have that thought. What sort of thought would you have instead? Μιλάμε υποθετικά. We're speaking hypothetically. What thought would you have instead? You know, the Beatles have a beautiful song, Let It Be. Let it be. Play that song. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. So, maybe you want to try that. Sing that song. I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe you're going to dance at Tsiftedeli every time he does that. It's up to you. You got to find what brings you out of that hole. It's, you know, there's many ways. There's not one way. I don't have a dogma here. I don't say follow this. You have to find ways. Maybe it's painting. You know, your husband gets you angry, you go painting and you forget it. And you, yeah, maybe it's a little power game. And you're like, okay, honey, I don't want to play that game. I don't want to play that game. Or other times I'm like, filakia. You know, I just,
So
I
you
do
blow
something
both.
is not...
Is that why people do that to me all the time?
No. You know,
I'm like, oh, they like me.
sometimes, you know, you have to think out of the box. And the first time I did that, he was like, oh, like she's not affected. She's not taken down like I expected. You know, I wanted to manipulate her. There's no manipulation happening. Agapi mu sagapo. Sagapo. I just say sagapo. And I'm, you know, sometimes I just do something a little crazy. That's why I like Melina Mercuri. You know, I like these women who are a little out of the box, like a little crazy. So imagine what would your life look like if that story you telling yourself didn't exist? What would it look like differently? What would you look like? What would you talk like? What would you do differently? Just imagine. Use your imagination. Through your imagination, you can attract this reality. Now, let's get down to business. Could you imagine letting go of your old narrative? Could you imagine letting go? Yes, I can imagine letting go. No, I cannot imagine.
Not yet.
Not yet. Can you imagine letting go?
Imagine.
Imagine. Can you imagine?
In my imagination, it's easy.
Okay, great. At least you can imagine it. If you know, Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it.
You can do it.
Okay. Now, if you could let go, by when are you interested in being free?
Right now.
A month from now?
No, right now.
Right
now.
A week from now? Right now?
Right
Tomorrow?
now. Right
Now? Right now? I like that. Right? Effing now. Hallelujah. Be free now. Now, clearly write out your new belief and story. Your new belief. Give yourself a new empowering belief that you can be practicing in your mind. What's a new thing you can, because up until now you've been telling you are practicing a story whether you're aware of it or not. You've become a gold champion in this story, gold medalist in your story. You play that role so well. Oh, poor me. You play that role like an Oscar actor. It's become you.
A victim.
You've become the victim and you play her so perfectly. Now we want a new role for you. Because what? You are the main. You have to imagine.
Look and practice.
That's it. You have to look and practice that new role. And sometimes you don't really feel the role. It's like an actress. She doesn't believe it in the. We are actors on the stage, as Shakespeare said. The thing is, you choose what role you're going to play. You're going to play the queen. You're going to play the joker. You're going to play the pawn. You're going to play the knight in shining armor. Right? You decide what role you play. You cast yourself in the role. So, as directors of your life, what is your new
role and practice?
And practice, keep practicing it. In the beginning, yes, it might feel a little, this isn't me. I'm so used to playing the other role. But if you want it, you can transform. Pattern interrupt. You're absolutely right. People don't like it. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. You're so comfortable being you. You're so comfortable playing that story. Not only that, but yeah, it's neurally connected. Your brain, the neurons, you have trained those neurons to fire in that way. Now you need a pattern interrupt. Wake up. Snap out of it. Snap out of it. How are you going to snap yourself out of it? You put a little alarm clock. You put a reminder. You pray 4 times a day. How am I seeing this situation? Get back to.
a lot of work.
Get back to. It is inner work, but it pays off. Honey, it's work, but it's also work doing what you're doing. You forget that it's also work upkeeping the role you're playing. It costs you in terms of energy. It costs you in a bad mood. It costs you because you gain weight because of your addictions. It costs you because you're smoking like an idiot. Yeah, we are addicted to our past self.